Todd Bates really is just the dude. After coming off a commitment of the 5-star defensive lineman David Stone, the post-Stone commitment, you might be wondering, well, where is OU football recruiting going next? Who's going to be next to commit? Who's on the list? And you have Dominick McKinley coming up on September 1st. And I'm going to be honest, it feels like that's a Texas link. 55-45 Texas right now. However, David Stone talked about it in his post-commitment interview that he is recruiting Dominick McKinley. It's a guy that he talks to. You never know. Maybe the sway of a 5-star defensive lineman like of David Stone's stature, a guy who recruits widely respect across the country, is able to be the definitive standing point for Dominick McKinley to pick OU over Texas. Ultimately, I believe this is going to be something like this. It's probably going to come down to a situation like Jaden Jackson, where if Oklahoma wins it, it's going to be a last-second win for Oklahoma. It's going to come down to the best NIL package, and it's going to come down to the best pitch from Todd Bates, maybe even David Stone, on the sole mission at Oklahoma. So, as Oklahoma fans really sit and look at the 5-star defensive lineman that is upcoming here on September 1st, and we look at the facts. Again, we're gonna look at this from a factual standpoint. Where did Dominick McKinley go? And although you look at the unofficial visits, and LSU has the most unofficial visits at 3, mainly, hey, they're in state for him. You have Texas A&M, Oklahoma, all tied at 2. And they all got official visits. Mind you, the lone school that I don't really think is in this recruitment, Ohio State, who also got an official visit, LSU did not. So you would think LSU is not as big of a player in here as you would expect. So you look at the unofficial visits, 2 for Texas, 2 for Oklahoma. The kid doesn't talk to a lot of people. It's really hard to read and decipher exactly where he's going to land. But maybe getting a guy like David Stone is the turning point, because David Stone brings that ability to say, hey, this program is changing. They're doing something different. We're going to be the turning point for this Oklahoma defense as they head into the SEC. Now, Texas is trying to do something very similar because their defensive line play, that's something that they needed to improve. And they got an excellent win in the 5-star edge Colin Simmons. And just like David Stone's going to work, you have Colin Simmons announcing he's going to be flipping dudes. He's got guys on his radar. He's got guys on his list. So you look at David Stone and Colin Simmons coming into this race late as a lot of these classes are starting to really shape up. And you say, who's going to come out victorious? Which defensive line prospect has the most power to draw somebody in to come play with them? And I get it. Some Texas fans are going to dog me on here because, you know, I've not talked the best about Bo Davis. But guys, I can only tell you what I hear from these recruits. I can only tell you that. I don't know Bo Davis myself, but I can only tell you what I hear. All I know is right now, Texas is, in my opinion, leading 55-40. But I think it could change in an instant. The question is Oklahoma going to be able to get a good enough pitch in right before the deadline? Are they going to be able to sell the sole mission? Because computer engineering is great. But in reality, we all know Dominick McKinley is a day 1 or day 2 talent. And if Oklahoma can land Dominick McKinley, then you head into a commitment for the 4-star defensive lineman, Nigel Smith, on September 8th. And that one is intriguing because even if you don't land Dominick McKinley, Nigel Smith is a talent that Oklahoma needs. A guy that's closer. He's only like 3 hours away. I think it's only a 3-hour drive from me down to Melissa, Texas. It's only 3 hours away. He's going to be a top, probably almost borderline 5-star guy like he was at the beginning of the cycle. And so you look at what you could potentially get in Nigel Smith and David Stone and Jaden Jackson. And I still like Danny Okoye to Oklahoma. That is a stellar defensive line. And it's another win over the Longhorns and the Aggies, getting a top defensive line prospect out of their state pulling him up to the University of Oklahoma, that's not something you've seen Oklahoma do as of late. They're not pulling those top prospects at the defensive line position into. You're seeing Alabama and LSU and Texas and A&M and all of those schools come in and grab those guys. Something's changing at Oklahoma. Todd Bates is doing his thing. And I'm glad to see that Todd Bates finally landed the 5-star defensive lineman, because now everybody can kind of get over, hey, he's not landing the guys. But then we look at the secondary, because I know a lot of people are wondering, well, now that we got Eli Bowen last week, what's the next step for Oklahoma? And it's got Devon Jordan and Michael Boganowski, right? Those are the two prospects left on the board that are uncommitted that Oklahoma's going after. You guys know my opinion and my take on this. If you don't land Michael Boganowski, because you look at, again, the unofficial visits, 8 unofficial visits to K-State, well, 7 unofficial visits to K-State, 1 official, 3 unofficials to Oklahoma with 1 official, so 8 versus 4 on the visit scale. If you don't land Michael Boganowski, do you go after another safety in this class and try to flip somebody? Because you can continue to try to flip Michael Boganowski, or you can go after guys like Xavier Filsaime, who, if you guys remember at the beginning of this class, this is someone we talked about. He'd been to Oklahoma twice, 2 unofficial visits. He'd only taken 1 official visit to Georgia and 1 official visit to the Florida Gators, both in June. And Oklahoma, at one point, it felt like they were in good position for Xavier Filsaime. But Xavier Filsaime is a guy that's a 5-star, according to 247 and the composite rankings. So you get Xavier Filsaime at 5'11 and a half, 180 pounds of safety, because you don't land Michael Boganowski, then you're feeling good about it. It's going to be a hard flip. He's committed to the Gators. The Gators got DJ Lagway, who, if you guys saw what he did on the field, you're going to understand why DJ Lagway is going to be a good recruiter on the recruiting trail. But Oklahoma could potentially look at Aaron Flowers. Remember that guy? The top 150 dude? Almost across the entire industry. I think Rivals is the only one that doesn't have him in the top 150, or really in the top 125. Because I think On3's got him at 124, 247's got him at 110, ESPN's got him at 121. Aaron Flowers is a consensus 4-star kid out of Forney, Texas. Again, at one point you thought this was an Oklahoma-USC battle. Oregon swooped in late with 3 visits, 2 unofficials, 1 official. And they were able to secure the bid of Aaron Flowers. Now, I'm not saying Oklahoma's going to go in here and flip these guys. That's not what I'm saying. But if you don't land Michael Boganowski, maybe you try to go in there and flip those, because those were 2 prospects you felt like you were in good position for. And then Devon Jordan. Now, you guys heard me talk about it with Jay and Ty. I think Devon Jordan's probably going to end up at Alabama. When Alabama pushes for somebody like they are with Devon Jordan, usually Alabama gets that guy. So you land Devon Jordan, a 3-star corner out of Tulsa, Oklahoma in Union. You feel really good about what Brandon Hall and Jay Valai are doing on the recruiting trail. Not necessarily a necessity, though. You've already got Jeremiah Newcomb, who a lot of you guys forget we have. You've got Eli Bowen. So you don't land Devon Jordan, not the end of the world. But again, I still lean Oklahoma there. And then you look at the offensive line, because Daniel Akunkumi, who you guys know I'm just super high on, Grant Brix, Jordan Seaton. Like I said, maybe Oklahoma can convince a Jordan Seaton to come play here, because, well, Bill Beatonbow is just that guy at developing on the offensive line. And now you got 2 of his teammates in Jaden Jackson and David Stone, who can not only work on him, but explain to him why he wants to come be a part of this class. Maybe when you get Jordan Seaton on for his official visit, maybe Oklahoma makes the top school list. It's a far-fetched idea, because this is not a prospect that you looked at and just said, oh yeah, Oklahoma's in it at the beginning of the season. It's one that you said, if you land Stone, maybe, but you're still in the heavy maybe, right? You're looking at the schools like Florida and South Carolina and schools like that for Jordan Seaton. But ultimately, you look at what Oklahoma's doing on the recruiting trail post David Stone's commitment. You like what you're seeing, and you like what you're hearing, because there's a lot of excitement drummed up on the recruiting trail. Whether that's immediate reactionary excitement due to the Stone commitment, you understand that Oklahoma's doing something different. Another guy that I think Oklahoma could look at the safety position now that they have David Stone. Jordan Johnson-Rubel. He took 2 unofficial visits to Oklahoma, both in 2022. One in March, one in June. He's committed to Texas. It's going to be a hard flip to flip him from Texas. But he's teammates with David Stone. Plays on the same side of the ball. If Oklahoma goes out there and produces a really good season, like I'm talking 10, 11 wins type season, maybe you're able to pitch a guy like Jordan Johnson-Rubel to come to the University of Oklahoma. Then you tear apart that Texas class. Now, again, it's very unlikely. The most likely scenario you see is Nigel Smith, Danny Okoye. You have Daniel Akinkumi, Grant Brix, and Michael Boganowski. That's the most likely scenario that you have for the rest of this class for Oklahoma. And although that might not be good enough to get you a top 5 class, it's still a damn good class. Because all you did was go in there and address the needs at defensive line. You got a really good offensive line. I think there's a lot of upside here in this offensive line. I really do. This is recruiting that we haven't seen with Oklahoma on the defensive side of the ball in a long, long time. And so I know it's not the class we expected. You didn't get Williams Nwaneri yet. I still think there's a chance you flip him. Sounds like Oklahoma is still in a good position there. You see Williams Nwaneri wearing the gloves. You see Williams Nwaneri wearing the shoes. And you go, well, that points to the fact that the kid potentially wants to be here. You land the 5 guys I just told you. Gives Oklahoma a 280.45 composite score. Maybe that gets you right outside the top 5. And at the end of the day, you go into the SEC with a stronger defensive line. And you go into 2025 not necessarily having to go into full attack mode on these 5 stars. Maybe you can get the guys you like Xavier Ukponu or an Ethan Utley or somebody like or Landon Rink or somebody like that on the defensive line. You've already got one dude who we just did an interview with Kamari Moore, who the Oklahoma Sooners really like. And then on the offensive line, it's literally the pick of the litter for Bill Bedenbaugh. So, guys, I want to hear from you. I want to hear what your thoughts are because in the post-Stone commitment, Oklahoma seems to be shaping up really well on the recruiting trail. And Oklahoma might just shock a couple people. And who knows? Maybe they land Dominick McKinley. Like I said, right now I am leaning away from Oklahoma for Dominick McKinley. But I think that could change instantly. We just have to kind of see how the Stone recruitment shapes up Dominick McKinley's recruitment. So, guys, go ahead. Jump down in the comments below. Let me know what y'all's thoughts are. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like and hit that subscribe button. I like to know what you guys like. And when you guys hit that like button, it tells me you guys like this kind of content. Also, keep your eyes out because we're going to be doing a season preview for Oklahoma. We're also going to be doing our college football playoff predictions. Something you guys don't want to miss.